Hello everyone and welcome back to Just One More Opinion. My name is Charlie and today is a very special day as we revisit a cultural phenomenon, an Oscar-nominated movie, the masterpiece that is Black Panther, directed by the talented Ryan Coogler and starring the late Chadwick Boseman, who passed away earlier this year. Today we will celebrate him as the King of Wakanda and remember how his performance impacted the whole world and inspired millions of children. Chadwick was an extremely kind soul, and his legacy will not be forgotten. Wakanda forever. Like I just said in the introduction, guys, this episode will be about celebrating Chadwick Boseman's portrayal of T'Challa, the Black Panther. Even though his passing was shocking and I still can't process it, really, today we will smile through the tragedy and be grateful for what he has given us, for what he gave to so many children, young children, specifically from black and brown communities who just received this with hope and a hero in Chadwick, a hero who looks like them and is graceful, honorable, and truly a role model. And of course, I'm not speaking for those communities. I'd be ashamed if I did. But I am an ally to the BLM movement, and I try to fight for those who are oppressed as much and as loudly as I can. So yeah, this is gonna be a really tough one, guys. So let's just move on. When I went to the movie theater to watch this movie, I was in London at the time, and London's such a culturally rich city, so different from my hometown, and as I walked through the crowd of so many families and young kids who were so excited to watch Black Panther finally have his own movie on the big screen, I was myself filled with joy and emotion. I felt as if I was about to experience something really special, and thankfully I did. Black Panther is a movie about struggle, and it tackles themes that are very much connected to the story of black people who have been ostracized and tormented by past colonizers and present bigots. And while it does reflect the experience of an enormous group of people, its story should affect everyone who watches it. It's a reminder of the suffering and segregation that the black communities have endured, but it's also a presentation of the beauty of their culture, of how colorful their nations are. The cinematography in this movie is just amazing. The African landscapes and the country of Wakanda itself is just a marvel to look at. And even though we only seem to see the good things that this nation has to bring and how wonderful their lives are, as they are inside this safe, technologically advanced region, which is Wakanda, it's in the main antagonist's story that we are presented with the reality that many have lived through in the real world. In my opinion, Black Panther is the most important Marvel movie. And I think that we all need to be aware of the message that the film attempts to pass to anyone who is neglecting the truth in this planet. And it's a message that has been broadcasted for decades by so many brilliant men and women who wished for real change to happen, which is why I think it's so upsetting that in 2020 we were reminded of how cruel some people are, how bigoted, how evil, how ignorant millions of people are, and it's heartbreaking. 2020 has been the toughest year I think any of us have endured, and every time I watch a movie like Black Panther, which brings forward a request for peace, to create a single tribe, to retell the same story, that we are more alike than we are different, but the world is still divided, so very divided. It hurts, and it's deeply disturbing not knowing when this will stop and when things will get better for everyone. I'm sorry I drifted away from this episode's central point, but I feel the need to do so. I just wanted to stress this out. Black Panther is not just a Marvel movie, it's literally a cultural phenomenon. Chadwick Boseman was not just an actor playing a superhero, he was a symbol. He became an icon, and I am so grateful that this movie exists. Not for me, but for any and every kid that felt empowered by T'Challa, by the story of Wakanda, by the message of this extraordinary movie. And yeah, with that said, I think I should continue. I'm gonna take a break, and I'll be right back. Okay, guys, I'm back. Let's dive into the story then. Or first, the characters, actually, as we get many new additions to the MCU. Of course, T'Challa returns from Civil War, as well as Everett Ross, played by Martin Freeman, who helps T'Challa fight against our main villain in the heat of the final battle. Ulysses Klaue returns from Avengers Age of Ultron too. Again, Andy Serkis is so funny, and I was so sad that he was killed off in this film. What a waste. He could have been a recurring side villain in future installments, but I guess Marvel wanted to go a different route. T'Challa's father, King T'Chaka, also returns for some flashback scenes and other sequences, which I'll get into in a bit. But he is not the only family of our hero that we encounter. Angela Bassett plays his mother, Queen Ramonda, and Letitia Wright plays his little sister, Shuri, who is a Tony Stark level genius, being the one who builds new tech and suits for her brother T'Challa. Shuri is really one of the standout roles of the film, in my opinion, but this movie has lots of those, and that says a lot. But yeah, her interactions with T'Challa are so funny and sibling-esque. I love their dynamic, and I cannot wait to see where the character goes from here. In another flashback scene, we meet Prince Njobu, T'Chaka's brother, uncle to T'Challa, played by Sterling K. Brown. And in that same scene, we meet young Zuri, who is later played by Forrest Whitaker. As for T'Challa's other trusted advisors and warriors, we have W'Kabi, Okoye, and Nakia. W'Kabi is played by Daniel Kaluuya, and he's a member of the Border Tribe, a good friend of T'Challa's, and he has lost both of his parents because of Ulysses Klaue's attack on Wakanda 30 years prior to the story of this movie. Okoye is played by Danai Gurira, and her character's allegiance to T'Challa is put to the test in the third act when her sense of duty challenges her ideals. She's a great fighter and can provide for some good comedic moments when the opportunity comes up. And then we have Nakia, played by Academy Award winner Lupita Nyong'o, and her character is a noble Wakandan spy who wants to do right by the helpless, innocent people around the world who can't fend for themselves. And this pursuit, this goal, is akin to another character in the movie, but I'll get into that in a minute. She's also a former lover of T'Challa's who sees in her a great queen, but is also aware of her responsibilities as a spy and protector of the disenfranchised. Did I say that right? Disenfranchised. Oh my god, my English. Guys, As for any other important characters, only two more remain. Winston Duke plays M'Baku, the leader of the Jabari tribe, the only faction that doesn't live in agreement with the other tribes. And Winston plays a very capable warrior, and even if at first is presented as an opponent to T'Challa, in the end we get to know him as a very honorable ally who wants nothing more than to see Wakanda safe as well. Winston was also one of the standout performers in Black Panther, not only because of his comedic input, his brute portrayal of M'Baku, but also, considering this was the first movie that the actor was in, he was able to give a layered interpretation of this character that, in the comics, is mostly seen as a villain, and it paved the way to see him return in a more prominent role, maybe in Black Panther 2. But M'Baku was not the main antagonist in this movie, no. In fact, there is not really an antagonist at all, just a character with opposing ideals from T'Challa. Played by Michael B. Jordan, the character of Eric Stevens, aka Killmonger, is yet another quote-unquote villain with some seriously great backstory and reasoning. Jordan gave us such an emotionally heavy portrayal of Killmonger, a man who has been also marginalized in the past and abandoned by the ones who should protect him. So let's finish off this section about characters and start discussing the story, starting with Eric's story. Eric is in fact the son of Njobu, T'Challa's uncle, who had been killed by his own brother, King T'Chaka, back in 1992 in Oakland, where Njobu was stationed as a Wakandan war dog, a Wakandan spy. And he had been stealing vibranium from his country and selling it in America. When T'Chaka finds this out, he is forced to kill his own brother to save the life of a young Zuri. And he also chooses to leave behind the child, Eric, alone and with no idea what to do now that his daddy was gone and the rest of his family left him behind. My God, first of all, what a plot twist. What a brutal revelation that changes not only our perspective of T'Chaka, but T'Challa's as well. When he finds out, he just doesn't understand his father's actions. And it would be impossible for anyone to not feel pity towards Eric. He was just a kid at the time, and in a few moments he had lost everything he ever loved. Of course he would want revenge. Nay, justice for his father and for everyone who had been ignored by the Wakandan nation. You see, this is where the goals of both Nakia and Eric meet. Both want to help the black communities who are powerless against the hate and oppression they receive from the rest of the world, but while Nakia wants to help them feel liberated, Eric wants to supply them with vibranium weapons so they can fight back. This is where Eric's objectives become, let's say, evil, somewhat evil. His desire for vengeance or justice has clouded his judgment. He doesn't understand that starting a necessary war will cause more bloodshed and create more segregation, which will be worse for his people, for the ones he wants to protect. But still, his motives are pure. Even if fueled by rage, he just wants to make it clear to T'Challa that T'Challa's ignorance, Wakanda's ignorance, will not be forgotten and must be exterminated by putting him, Eric, on the throne, and with the title of Black Panther as well. Okay, I think I'm moving too fast with the story, so I'll dial it back. Before, let me just say that ignorance is a central theme of the story. Of course, I've talked about the real ignorance millions of people the millions of ignorant people around our world, our planet, in regards to the social injustices many more face every single day. But what Ryan Coogler did so well was make even Wakanda, even T'Challa himself ignorant, oblivious to what the rest of the world needs, which is the assistance of a highly advanced, technologically hidden African nation that has the resources to help alleviate the issues the world faces currently and resolve the issues that their past negligence has caused. And this movie is just great at presenting both sides and their benefits and disadvantages. We do get T'Challa's worry about opening Wakanda to the rest of the world. The country would become a target. People would want to take the vibranium from there and create weapons of mass destruction to harm entire cities or even countries. But staying hidden, prolonging the lie that Wakanda is just a nation of farmers, it would also harm the population of Earth because the country has so much to give and teach that not doing so would not only be a damn shame, but also a very dangerous decision leading to more loss and more division. And Black Panther, the movie, it really makes you think, question your judgment, choose a side. Yes, Killmonger wants to put weapons in the hands of the tormented, and yes, that could lead to a game-changing revolution, but it could also lead to something far worse. But if Wakanda does something, then they might prevent new wars from being waged. Because if they don't, if they keep the same position they have for so many decades, that could be seen as an act of cowardice, and and yes, lead to new wars being waged, and that would be counter productive to what Wakanda stands for, which is peace, I would say. So T'Challa is faced with a big dilemma, and making up his mind is something he truly struggles with. But like I already told you, I skipped a whole lot of stories, and that's just because this running theme is so interesting, and I could debate around it for hours if I could. But yeah, moving forward. Or actually, moving back. Right to the beginning, actually. We get an introductory presentation about the story of Wakanda and Vibranium. The visual graphics they used were really impressive and original, very pleasant to look at. Throughout the movie, we also see the various applications of Vibranium, and it's really amazing to see. Even if I start wondering what can't Vibranium build or do, because it's really an OP technology, if you ask me. But that's the given circumstance of the movie, so I let it slide, I guess. We get another taste of the Black Panther's combat skills in the first act. He's so agile and strong and badass. His fighting technique and style is one of the best in the MCU, if not the very best, I would say. We also get that first scene of entering Wakanda, such an iconic moment. The soundtrack is beautiful. It just lifts up your spirit and places you right in the heart of Africa. And again, the cinematographer did wonders at showing how breathtaking the landscape is in this continent. After landing in Wakanda, T'Challa prepares for the crowning ceremony, which requires a combat challenge. Anyone who would like to defy the king-to-be, would have to best him in combat. That's when we first meet Winston Duke's M'Baku. And to make the fight fair, T'Challa needs to lose his Black Panther powers by drinking a potion that drains him of any physical enhancements. And his fight with M'Baku is so cool, as is the whole atmosphere, the dancing, the singing, the spectacle, the scenery. Wow, it's just magnificent and very vivid. T'Challa wins the fight, and he orders M'Baku to yield as opposed to being killed by the royal warrior. And this was an example of how merciful T'Challa is, reminding his opponent that his people, the Jabari tribe, they need M'Baku as a leader. It was really a nice touch that I really liked. Just a little moment that showed how merciful T'Challa is, which is an important trait of any king or leader. At last, T'Challa is officially king, and in order to regain his Black Panther powers, he needs to drink from the heart-shaped herb potion, which sends him to this ancestral plane where all the previous Black Panthers are, including his own father, T'Chaka, with whom he has just an emotional conversation. T'Challa confesses he's not ready to be without his father, who replies with the line, "You're a good man with a good heart, and it's hard for a good man to be king," which reflects his own past mistakes, the dilemmas that King T'Chaka had faced, hinting at that Njobu plot twist that we learn later in the movie. But yeah, after this scene, T'Challa actually finds out Ulysses Claw is in South Korea planning to sell some vibranium, and Wakabi, who I had mentioned had lost his fathers to Ulysses Claw's attack, asks his friend T'Challa to either kill Claw or bring him back to Wakanda. And T'Challa promises Wakabi he would do the latter. Unfortunately, after an awesome action scene in the South Korean casino with some amazing camera work, T'Challa loses Claw when Killmonger helps him escape from custody. Now, you would think that we would see more of Andy Serkis's character after his freedom was recovered. But Eric kills him and decides to use Claw's corpse as a way to get inside Wakanda by letting T'Challa's failure to capture him be the stimulus that Wakabi needs to turn against his king, who had lost hope in T'Challa as a leader. But yeah, we didn't see more of of Claw, which was a shame. But oh well. Now that Eric, real name Njadaka, is finally in Wakanda, he confronts his cousin T'Challa and demands a shot at the throne by challenging our hero for the titles of King and Black Panther. And this might be my favorite scene. Michael B. Jordan is so phenomenal and charismatic as Killmonger. T'Challa is clearly distressed by the situation he finds himself in, and he struggles to comprehend how could his father, or any man, do what he did, abandon a child. This really is a family feud, a tragedy, family tragedy even, with the father's mistake coming back to haunt the son, and there's so much emotional and intellectual conflict in the scene. Many have their eyes opened, and T'Challa has no choice but to accept Njadaka's challenge. So we go back to the cliff, where T'Challa had beaten M'Baku at the start of the film, and now he was to face his own cousin, his own blood. Killmonger admits that he had waited his entire life for that moment, showing his persistence and willpower, and that killing T'Challa would be the only thing that would quench his thirst for justice, justice for his dad, justice for all the people abandoned by Wakanda. Njadaka is a capable fighter, dominating T'Challa almost instantly, and when he's about to land a final blow, Zuri stops him. And Killmonger doesn't hesitate and stabs Zuri, the man who had abandoned him as well when he was a kid, a man that he once knew as Uncle James. And then Njadaka throws T'Challa off the cliff into the crushing waterfall and is therefore pronounced King of Wakanda and the new Black Panther. Whew. Wow. What a bold move by Ryan Coogler and Marvel. Of course, T'Challa was still alive, having been recovered by the Jabari tribe, but at that moment we didn't know that, and his friends and family didn't know that. Their only option was to get one heart-shaped herb and give it to M'Baku so he could have the strength to beat Killmonger. Just before Nakia steals that one herb, Njadaka was given the Black Panther powers, and he visited the ancestral plane where he saw his dad again. And this was another very emotional scene, maybe the most emotional scene in any. No, not in any, because there's going to be a lot of emotional scenes to come in the future movies. But maybe the most emotional scene in this film when Eric is with his father again. Michael B. Jordan's acting is profound and beautiful. The scene consists of a mix of really memories with young Eric and his dad having a conversation that they probably had, but also like a mix of that with a surreal afterlife element of the ancestral plane. And they talk about the sunsets in Wakanda, described by Njobu as the most stunning ever. And he even asks his son why he's shedding no tears for him. And Eric just tells him that it's just life around here in Oakland, which really just says it all about the story of the movie, about the themes that I've mentioned before. Such powerful stuff. And I'm so glad. This thing made me feel so glad, so grateful that Coogler spent some decent amount of time with our main antagonist, because we were able to see him as this lost soul trying to find his way back home, and the depth of this character allowed for some much needed relatability after we got so many villains with unimpressive motives or goals, I would say. So, after Njadaka gets the Black Panther powers, he orders for the Garden of the Heart-Shaped Herb to be burned down, which is just an insane move. But of course, like I said, Nakia was able to get just one herb for T'Challa, who was safe in the Jabari refuge. And in the scene in the Jabari tribe region, M'Baku just proves to be a good man by helping T'Challa and his family, and he also later joins the fight against N'Jadaka, which again was just amazing character development for M'Baku. Moving on, T'Challa also goes back to the ancestral plane when he drinks from the potion, and he confronts his father this time, tells him how wrong he was to turn his back on the rest of the world and abandon his own nephew. T'Challa realizes what must be done to right his father's wrongs, but first he must stop Killmonger, who is ready to send vibranium weapons to the oppressed corners of the world. A battle ensues, with the real Black Panther fighting alongside his sister, Nakia, Okoye, the Dora Milaje, and the Jabari tribe against Wakabi and his border tribe, and N'Jadaka with a golden jaguar vibranium suit. Normally, I would have a problem with the villain's suit being similar to the hero's, but here it made sense because the suit was not designed for N'Jadaka, it was designed for T'Challa by Shuri, so yes, it made sense. I did not have a problem with that. So the battle begins, and overall it is simply an awesome spectacle. We have T'Challa taking out war rhinos, N'Jadaka overpowering Okoye and Dora Milaje and Nakia and Shuri, and we also have the Black Panther's kinetic energy releasing abilities bring some more color, the color of purple to the fight, which was really nice. But when it's T'Challa versus Killmonger, just one-on-one, I was a bit disappointed. The fight was too much choreographed, and it was shot in a poorly lit location. And taking into consideration that both their suits had, like the majority was black, like T'Challa had black and purple, and N'Jadaka had black and golden, but most of it was black. Shooting this scene in also a dark environment, like poorly lit, with some light here and there, I don't know, it wasn't really a good choice, I would say. And also it didn't really display their combat techniques that well. Between the punches and kicks, T'Challa did try to explain that N'Jadaka's plans were to divide and conquer just like the colonizers did, but N'Jadaka doesn't listen, and so T'Challa is forced to kill his own blood, stabbing him when he's vulnerable. And as Killmonger's life slowly fades away, he's taken to watch the sunset. T'Challa brings him to the outside, and wow, it's truly beautiful. Not only the sunset, but the scene as well. T'Challa says that he could save him, could save his cousin, but N'Jadaka doesn't want that. He prefers to die, to be left in the ocean with his ancestors, because, like he says, they knew that death was better than bondage. Wow. What a powerful scene. It was really powerful. And even though Killmonger was gone, his wishes were not. Because T'Challa knows that his cousin had a point, and that he should change his mind about Wakanda, and not fear that the country might lose their way of life if they open their borders, because it is always best to use the resources, use what we have to help others. So in a post-credit scene, he announces in a United Nations conference that he will strive to build bridges, not barriers, taking a jab at Donnie T. And corta aquilo. And he starts making plans to build Wakandan international outreach centers, the first being right where Njadaka had lost his father, Oakland. And I guess that's the end, guys. This was a long episode, I know, but this one required me to dig deeper. The message in this movie is just so important and powerful. Wakanda Forever is not just an iconic Marvel line, it's a movement, a motto. It implies that we should always fight for what we believe in, to hold our ground and values, to do the right thing, and admit our mistakes. And above all, protect. Protect the people, protect the world, protect everything. Like T'Challa says, we are one single tribe. We should act like it. Well, as for some final comments, let me add that the other post-credit scene teases Bucky's return for Infinity War. Now he is nicknamed White Wolf by some children, which is a moniker the character actually uses in the comics, I believe. Nice reference. The soundtrack is phenomenal. Really powerful music, setting the mood and giving more life to an already fantastic, full-of-life film. The comedy that exists is always welcome. There were no jokes that fell flat, in my opinion. Shuri being the most comical character, I'd say. And like I mentioned many times already, the themes of this movie are so significantly valuable to anyone. What is the right thing to do? Appears to be a question that dominates our protagonist, who is played in an excellent, epic manner by the great Chadwick Boseman. He really was a true hero, and seeing him as the Black Panther on the big screen was so important. For kids around the world, I'm so happy that they have this movie. I'm so glad we all get this movie. We all have this movie. It's such a masterpiece, earning an easy 10 out of 10 inside the MCU and a 9 outside the franchise, just because there were some contrivances that I don't feel like I should mention right now. But don't be mistaken, this is a must-watch for everyone, whether you like superhero movies or not. Even if you are not used to watching movies in general, Black Panther was a remarkable motion picture with a purpose, and that purpose, to me, was to unite the world. And I think that it was successful in doing that. And we have reached the end of this very long episode. I hope you enjoyed my discussion on this movie. I think sometimes I couldn't really express my feelings or my opinion that well, just because this is such an emotional movie, and I don't want to say the wrong thing, because I know that I'm not in any position to comment on social injustices that I haven't myself experienced. But I just know how important Black Panther is as a movie, as a cultural event, and yeah, it's really one of my favorites in the MCU. Undoubtedly the most important entry in the franchise. But tomorrow, though, we rewatch Infinity War, which is another vital addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but in a very different way. So I'll see you then, guys. Stay safe and goodbye.